Hey guys, how you doing? We'll get started in like a few seconds. My name is Edwin Guarn. I'm the Academic Developer Evangelist for Higher Education New England. It does say that on my business card. It's a pretty long title. I've been at Microsoft for just over 11 years now, and I'm really excited to be here. So, real quick, how many of you are in CS50? Okay, a couple. And how many are not in CS50? Obviously, everyone else. How many of you actually done phone development, not necessarily Windows Phone? Okay. Cool. What have you built stuff on?
I've done Android and iOS.
Okay, cool. And you also went to the session, I guess, the phone development session.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, it's good to see you again. So what I'm going to do today is going to be talking about phone development. First, I'm going to do an overview of the Windows Phone. How many of you have actually seen the Windows Phone in person? Okay, so, well, that's good to know. I'm going to show you a couple of different features. I'm also going to get you started with getting a free account. So rather than paying $99, if you want to start monetizing your apps in the marketplace, we're going to walk through a process to get you a free account. And then we're also going to be talking about sort of, getting started with development on the phone. Does that sound good? Okay. Awesome. You guys are busy with your pizza. I think that's what the deal is. So how many of you have an iPhone? Okay, BlackBerry, probably not many. Droid, and what's the other? Palm. You have a Palm?
Had a Palm.
Oh, you had a Palm. Okay. So as you notice, a lot of them look kind of similar, right? They have these little square bars for their apps. We try to make ours look a little different. It's really about the people, and I'm going to try to walk through the marketing stuff really quickly. But as you can see, we have something called Live Tiles, right, where you can actually download the information from Facebook automatically as their icon, as their tile, right at the start menu. Versus, maybe you have to go to people, your address book, and find out what their picture is. There's a lot of really cool things, and I'm going to walk through this really quickly and then show you the stuff on the phone. But some of the things that we did, right, we have these things called People Hubs. I can organize my friends into groups, so I can text them all at the same time by, clicking once on that group and then clicking again to text. Organizes it pretty well. And also Smarter Way to App. What I mean by that is if you're going to do a search on, sort of your favorite search engine, it actually links your search to specific apps. So if you want to see movies, it actually can tell you, hey, these are the apps linked to finding out more movies. And also Internet beyond the browser. So, if you want to find out what's nearby, what you want to eat, I'll show you really quick ways to do that. All right, so let's actually go through the demo. I'm not even going to go through these slides. I'm going to pull up my little viewer here. All right, so you can see my phone. You see I have 2 missed calls right away at the home screen. I have 2 emails on the bottom right over here and 3 emails from one of my accounts. So I'm going to type in my password. It's also my ATM password. You probably don't want to know that. Let's see. All right, so over here, let's zoom through. It looks like it's going through a little slow, but it's just a refresh rate. So up here, you already can tell I have 2 missed calls, voicemail, 2 missed emails in Outlook. As well as specifically Francine down here, if you see her, I have 2 missed calls from her. What's really cool though, if I go to her, Francine, she happens to actually be sitting in the room right now, but you can see today I have a history of what happened. I missed 2 calls from her. I have a history of different texts from her. And what's cool is this is, again, linked to Facebook. So, what you can get in the home tile, that actually downloads the picture from Facebook. You can also see her mobile number, so you can give her a text or call her work. But you'll see here that, I can link specific people into the same account. So I can link what I have on Facebook and what I have on, say, my mail client together, so it combines that information all into one space. Same thing, what's new? You can actually look at the What's New tab in that one profile. Again, one click to her profile, you can see what's on her Facebook. And also look at her album. So I don't have to open up a separate Facebook app. I don't have to go to pictures. Everything is right there. What's cool too, we have something called Panorama View. So these are different pictures that I have, right? I can see what's on my camera roll. But over here, you'll see this Panorama View where it actually pulls up pictures live from Facebook and any other streaming that is supported. And I could go to people and see what these people have done as well. So these are live updates from people's Facebook albums. Everything is sort of really connected. Now maybe I want to do a search. I click the search button. Let me type in movies. Oops, movies. Movies. Okay, bam. And let's see. It actually knows that I'm in Cambridge already, and it'll tell me what movies are playing nearby, as well as, the star rating. So if I click on there, right, I can actually go to Paranormal Activity 3, which I saw earlier this week, and find out information right about it. All I did was go to a search. I didn't know I have to go to IMDb or Fandango or any of these other apps. And it already pulls all the information, the synopsis, the runtime, show times nearby, right? And also what's really cool is apps. Again, this is sort of this App Connect where, again, I don't have to know I should download IMDb or I should download Fandango and go right to it. I actually have Flickster already. So I don't have to go to Flickster and then type Paranormal Activity 3. It automatically does that for you. And now, it has the Rotten Tomatoes rating and such and things like that, right? So again, it's just sort of this integrated experience where I don't have to click on multiple apps. I don't have to know what I need to download. I just search for it and everything is right there. What else is interesting? Okay, so I have a bunch of friends, really close friends from New York. You'll see there's a New York Friends, and you saw it actually showed one tile with my friend Melissa and another tile with my friend Dunya, who's doing that really awesome high kick over there. But it's, again, finding out what their profile pictures are and uploading them right to that tile. And then Rob taking the golf swing. Melissa doesn't have a Facebook profile, so it actually doesn't pull up a picture for her. But what I could do is click here and text everyone. Right? I organize them into a group. I have a bunch of friends. Maybe I have like a CS50. Wow, that would probably be like, hundreds of people. But, right, really close friends, like a study group or something like that. Let me do a focus here. Right? I could do a study group. And it's cool because actually no one updated their profile since I last checked. But if someone updates their status, this tile flips and actually shows their status or if they liked one of your photos. It's pretty cool. What's new, again, all my friends have their Facebook sort of updates all in this New York Friends app, right? So it basically consolidates all of their apps, all of their updates into one. Same thing with pictures. Again, this really cool integrated experience. What I could do is I can edit it and I could add other people to this group as well. So pretty cool. Now let me go to this People Hub. So as you can see, I actually have groups of friends over here. I got family. What's new? I have my recent friends. These are actually Annie and Brandon from Harvard. They might be coming by today. But again, it's this really cool experience where everything is connected. And then if I actually go to my messaging, I can actually set this online. So if I do Facebook chat, I can do live chat with my Facebook friends through my phone, all through messaging. It's pretty cool. Same thing with Threads, right? I mean, Threads email or text messages just like other phones as well. So, I mean, that's sort of a quick overview of what the interface looks like. We're going to be going a little deeper into that and then possibly building some stuff. So let me see what. One more thing actually that I want to show. Why not? This concept of live tiles, other than just friends and the weather. Man, the glare is not doing well for this. Let's see. I think that's going to be a little better. So, for example, let's see. Well, 38 degrees, right? I live in Bedford, Massachusetts, and that's the current weather in Bedford. I know some of the other apps, they just have a static icon. It's always 72 and partly cloudy. But here, it really does a good job of polling that information and updating it to the tile. And again, you can create these things, right? You can get a back-end service to go ahead and update these tiles. What's really cool, too, these other live tiles. So here's my alarm clock. I try to wake up at 7:20, even on the weekends. It's kind of sad. But check it out. Like if I go back home, right, alarm, there's nothing over here really. You just see the clock. Now let me click on alarm. Let me turn on an alarm for tomorrow at 7:17. Let me go back down. And bam, 7:17 on, right? So again, this live tile, this feature of I don't have to go into the app just to find out when I set my alarm. I could see maybe I don't want to wake up at 7:17 without having to click through it. So again, this concept of live tiles is kind of cool. Any questions so far? These are other examples of live tiles, right? Again, you know, BBC News, if they have the latest update, it'll flip. You know, usually you'll have, you know, this really nice presented tile with a picture, but you can actually see updated news. And then the apps. Beyond the browser, oh yeah, there's also this. Sorry, there's always something to show you guys. One more thing, I promise. So if I want to go to maps right here, let me go to where it's a little darker. And I'll find out where I am. This glare is getting it. Okay, so we're not quite there, but if I click this button, it's called Scout. And what Scout does is it automatically looks at, you know, what's around the area, things like eating and drinking. I'll let that load, right? Temple Bar, Boca Grande, and actually has these star ratings already. So if I click on one of these, have any of you been to Temple Bar? No? Well, it actually pulls all the different reviews. You can see what people say. You know, any apps, Open Table. If I want to reserve, you know, a table at that restaurant, it knows, hey, go ahead, click Open Table. It'll automatically populate Open Table with that Temple Bar information. And, you know, you got the address, you got the reviews. It's pretty cool. What else is around here? You know, things to do and see, right? Harvard Museum, #1. Fear at Fenway. Actually, that, you know, that's sort of like the Shocktober type of thing to do at Fenway these days. But as you can tell, I mean, it's pretty live and updated. So, you know, another cool thing. Pretty sweet. All right, live tiles. We talked about that. Fast application switching. So, you know, how many times have you guys kind of, you know, wrote a text message? Maybe I'll start a text message. Write it to, hey, bud, how am I doing so far? This is Jeremy's number. He's in the room as well. Okay, how am I doing so far? Oops. What did I actually want to do with that? Hold on. Oh yeah, okay. Now, so if I'm in the middle of typing a message, actually, let's do it this way. So blah 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 blah. I go back home, and maybe there's something else I want to do. I'm like, oh man, I forgot what to see and do. You know, I wanted to show him, and of course I'm not showing it to you up here, right? So I kind of wrote him a message. I held the back button, and it led me to this fast application switching, right, where I can actually look at different tasks that I did recently, sort of like a history, right? I did go to my alarm. And I want to go to my alarm, turn it off. I'll hold the back button again. Jokes. And let's see what he said. Jokes are so-so, but the phone is cool. Thanks, Jeremy. Really appreciate it. So again, I mean, you know, the ability to just sort of switch back and forth. Maybe I wanted to copy and paste an address and send it to Jeremy and say, hey, here's the address, copy, paste, back to my message, right? Really quickly. I don't have to click out, you know, click back home and out. All right. I think that's my last demo for now. Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeremy. I'll make worse jokes just for you. App Hub. Okay, so there's something called App Hub. If you guys are actually interested in monetizing your phone, we offer this ability to give you free access to the marketplace, uploading apps to the marketplace. So if you go to dreamspark.com, we could do this maybe later, but at least I wanted to talk through this, especially for the people watching the video. Where if you go to dreamspark.com, this gives you, the student, the ability to download a lot of really cool things for free, things that cost companies some money. So, you know, download it before you graduate. So if you click here, sign in, you're going to sign in with a live ID, you're going to get verified, you're going to download. This basically gives you the ability to log into App Hub, which is at create.msdn.com. right? And you can actually, when you go to App Hub, you're going to sign in up here. I actually have a blog post that walks through these steps, but I'll show it to you right now, right? Where you can actually look at my Windows Phone. I'm going to log in a second. So I'm going to log in here. And my password. I always forget. And what's really cool is when I log into App Hub and I sign into it, and after going through DreamSpark, I can see all the apps that I uploaded and that's in the marketplace. I can see how many downloads, how many crashes. I can see that I have apps that I'm about to submit. This is basically what it looks like. Let's see, Scary Movies, right? I created this for October. And went through the certification process. And if I want to take a look at the details, I can click here, and then basically it'll give me the ability to send different details for the screenshots, etc. And then I can find that on windowsphone.com. And I'm going to go to Marketplace. And in the Marketplace, I can search for Scary Movies. And there's my app, right? No one's rated it yet, so feel free. You could actually download it from here. And if you sign in, if you do have a Windows Phone, it'll send you a text message on your phone so you can directly download it from the Marketplace from your phone. So it's pretty cool. I mean, you can search for apps on your PC, kind of queue them up and send them to your phone. And where to find that, if you go to my bit.ly link, bit.ly/evangelist, I'll send this all to you guys later. Let me zoom in. Oops. bit.ly/evangelist. There is a post called DreamSpark and App Hub Process Revealed, and it goes through all these different screenshots of how to sign in through DreamSpark. Get yourself verified as an EDU. I also gave you guys cards that you don't have to go through the verification process. I passed these out. These are codes that automatically verify you as students. And after you verify as students through DreamSpark, you can go to App Hub and sign up for the marketplace. And that way you can start making money. Any questions there? Okay, let's get a little into the code. I know that's what you guys are waiting for. All right, let's go through Visual Studio. How many of you have actually used Visual Studio? Raise your hands. Okay, one person. All right, so we're going to do an introduction to Visual Studio, kind of get you to understand how to create phone projects. By the way, again, there's a USB key being passed around. Feel free to download all the content. It's going to go through all the presentations, get the code samples, as well as lectures that we won't be covering because, again, we don't have 8 hours to cover today. So Visual Studio is an IDE, right? It lets you program applications with different programming languages. Right? You could create a phone solution. You can actually create an Xbox game through Visual Studio on the phone as well. You can create games. We're going to be talking a bit about that. And it has all these different templates. I'm going to walk through this again, but right now there's screenshots. But I can create something with audio. I can create a panorama app. I can create something with Pivot. All these templates are there for you. It'll create a blank game for you. Right? And then now Silverlight is the ability to create an app. It's very text-based, very text-rich, versus XNA, which you'll hear is more for games. It has things like audio, sound files, pictures. It's really created for games and slightly different. Right, so let's go through a demo of creating a Silverlight application. So I'm going to go through a demo real quick. I'm going to close this out. So if I click on File, New, Project, what it brings you up with is this new project page, right? Where on the left you'll see, let me zoom in here. Zoom it. I think I have to run Zoom it. Okay. Don't mind me. I'm running this Zoom it so I can make sure I can zoom. I'm going to create this phone app. On the left, you'll see Visual C#, which is what we're going to be using to write our applications, Silverlight for Windows Phone. And then now, if I click through these different things, you'll see there's a panorama application, there's a pivot application, there's Silverlight and XNA if you're planning to combine text and a game. Again, the tools are actually on that USB stick too, so you can download them while we're talking and follow along if you want. So let me just go ahead and click OK. Now it gives you the option to create a phone application using 7.1, which is Mango, or 7.0. So we're going to go through Mango, which is 7.1. Okay, so let's walk through this. How many of you actually built a phone application? Maybe iOS or Android. Looks probably similar to this, right? So on the left, you'll see sort of this emulator, right? Exactly what the phone would look like for the most part. And over here, anyone know what type of language this is? XAML. XAML. Do you know what XAML stands for? Extended Application Markup Language. You were close. You did XAML, so free USB stick for you. Cool. Very close. I actually have some cool games and stuff to give out as swag too, so feel free to ask questions or answer stuff. So just a quick walk around. So if I click on, say, my application, which is the title, you'll see over here is the XAML, right? Text block equals application title. Text equals my application. So guess what I could do, right? Let's call this the Harvard application. Oh man, sounds like the application process. I don't think you guys want to go through that again. But at the same time, right, you can see the properties on the bottom right where you have Harvard application. Should I put Yale here? I'm joking. All right. We'll call this the Harvard app. I'm sorry. Did I just hear people leave? Okay, so I can also update it through this properties panel on the bottom right. So again, you have multiple ways to change your app and to kind of change the text. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. Page name, I mean, you kind of get the gist of it. Let me see if I could zoom out a little here so you can see a little more code. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that on the camera. Does that work? Kind of. Yeah, question?
So can you modify things on the emulator itself as well, or is that only just see what you've done?
That is, you're basically seeing what you... so the question was, can you modify directly on the emulator? And it's more for seeing it and selecting objects. You can actually modify the location of it, which I'll about to do in a second. So, hey, Jeremy, just grab something small from that blue bag, maybe a game or something. I think there's an Xbox game. Why not? First question of the day, right?
Bundle of 20s.
How many 20s do you want? All right, so now take a look at Visual Studio. On the bottom left, you'll see something called a toolbox. Now, this is where you can find all these different elements or objects, and what we're going to do is look through them, right? So what I'm going to create right now is I'm going to maybe create a text block. So all I'm going to do is drag it over here. So if I drag it, the text box element, here, this is where I can change, right? This is kind of your question. You can actually change the position of it. What's really cool too is if I drag one of the corners, you'll see over here, right here, I'm zoomed in, but you'll see that I can drag one of these bars and you'll see the different number of pixels it is from the edge. So let me escape from there, right? So for example, if I do this, you'll see 99 pixels, 245, right? But you'll also see that on the right side where the margin, right? So if I actually change the margin over here to, say, 20, right? It does a live update, 20. You can start fooling around here. So again, you can change where the text block goes either through dragging it over here, through the margin over here. Let's go with like 200. And then down here, right, you have the different margin layouts, which is really cool. Now if I click on the drop-down box for margin, you can actually see what these four numbers represent, right? This is from the left, from the top, from the right, and from the bottom. So it gives you the ability to kind of play around with it intuitively, if that makes sense, right? So now I'm also going to name this text block object over here in the properties. I'm going to call this my text block. Okay, so I'm naming this object over here, my text block. And within my text block, the text, I'm going to keep it blank, right? So I can, again, change it here on the bottom right. I'm going to start this way because it's really easy to do it this way versus XAML if you're not used to XAML. So use this properties block, right? I'm going to get rid of that. How do I create a text block where I can actually enter text? Take a guess. You guys are avid SMAT people. How would I insert a text box? Go ahead.
Hit the toolbox on the left.
Hit the toolbox on the left. Then what? Text box. What do I do?
Click.
Oh my gosh, yeah, click and drag. Man, you are a genius, let me tell you. Right? So what's really cool is that, again, I'm going to change the text, bottom right. Right? I'm going to look at the properties. Let me zoom in here. The properties. Again, I mean, use this for now, and you can always change it up later over there. Text box, I'm going to do also blank. And now I'm going to have a button, right? Sort of the standard phone app. Here's a text box, here's a text block, and here's a button. So go to Toolbox. I'm going to drag a button. Really, really simple. And on this button, I'm going to say, click me. Okay, now click me. So, any guesses on how to create my first Hello World app? If I want to, create something where I click me and it writes Hello World into that text block. Anyone have any ideas?
Yeah, put on-click user and then ask it to say that.
So you have to put like an on-click event, would you say, right? We call them events. And how would I do that? What would you think? If you're building an app, how do we make it easy for you to kind of write that function right away? Go ahead.
Is it like iOS where you can sort of drag and drop between your button and then your code, where it'll like create a little section in your code where you can propagate what you want to do?
Well, you could propagate what you want to do? Absolutely, but I think it might be a little easier, right? I could just double click on it. If I double click on click me, it brings me to the click event. I mean, how easy is that, right? You just click, double click. Now, it's going to give me this button1.click. Actually, so I'm going to delete that because I want to name it my button. I'm just really kind of funny like that. So I'm going to rename this to my button. My button. Button up. Actually, never mind. Hold on. Let me go back. My button. I'm going to name that back to button 1. Sorry, I don't want to confuse anyone. Let's keep it that way. Button 1. Okay, let me go back to the CS. So now you actually see that it opens up another page called .cs. This is where your C# code is, right? So on the right side, you'll see something called the Solution Explorer, where it walks through your different projects. And over here, I have main page.xaml, which is where my emulator is. So if I double click on that, I see my emulator in sort of this live preview. Now if I click on main page.xaml.cs, it brings me right to sort of my C# code where I can make all these different functions and methods happen and events. So if I want to do a hello world, I'm going to do my text block, right? So actually what's really cool is it has something called IntelliSense, where it gives you the options of what you can write. So I'm just going to hit enter. Dot. How many of you write in Java or know Java? All right, C# is very close to Java, so if you know Java, you'll be able to pick this up really quickly. My textbox.text equals hello world. Whee. All right, I can hit this play button up here, which is really start debugging my app. And so what happens, it's going to go ahead and basically open up the app simulator and click me. Hello world. Okay. So let's do some stuff that's a little more interesting. I'm going to stop the simulator, stop debugging. So I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to close this solution. Let me just create a brand new one. New project, Windows Phone app. OK. It'll get more interesting in a bit. All right, let me go back to Toolbox. I'm going to create, let's see what I want to do. I'll do a text box. And I'm going to do a text block. And I'm going to do, let me put this up here. As you can tell, I'm not a designer. This is not a pretty looking app. And then let's do a button as well. Okay, sort of the same setup again. That's what I want to do. I kind of like to keep things sort of uniform. So I'm going to call this my text block. And I'm going to remove the text. Over here, I'm going to call this my text box. And I'm also going to remove the text. So again, the properties bottom right, I'm going to remove that button. I'm going to call this clear. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is when I enter something in this text box, hold on, let me actually move things around. This text box up here, and what's really cool, again, it has this sort of snap feature where you see these orange lines. If I move away from it, bam, it snaps it right above the text block. So, you know, kind of, even though I suck at designing, it kind of helps me make it look pretty. Go ahead, question.
When you change like the name of one of your boxes or whatever, will it update it throughout the code, or do you have to manually do that?
You have to manually update it. So the question was, if you change the name of the property of that object, will it automatically update the rest of the code? My suggestion is you can do sort of like a find and replace, but the easy way to do it is do it right from the start. That's sort of my mistake, right? You kind of saw me what not to do. So this is going to be called my text box, my text block, and this is going to be called my button. Okay. So next thing what I'm going to do is, let's see, when I write something in that text box, I want that same thing to show up in the text block. Anyone know how I can make a call to this? What did I do with the button? Take a guess.
Yeah, you can say text box dot text is equals to text block dot text.
Very good. Give that man a cookie. No, we don't have cookies. So what I can actually do is I'm going to double click on this, right? So again, even though you know what to do in the background, when I double click on that text box, it automatically brings me to the code where I can write that. So very good. Oops, sorry. My text block. What did you say? What was your answer? My text block dot text. Yep.
Sorry, it was. I think you should. Yeah, it's okay. My text box dot text.
Yep. Dot text. Now, what I can also do is you typed plus my text box dot text. Now, anyone know why that squiggle is there? Right, semicolon, right? I mean, you know, kind of gives you all these little hints. But if I actually remove that semicolon, let's see what I could do there. Never mind. Means I need a semicolon. I thought something would pop up. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. So what's really cool, before I even do that, you see this text change over here? Let me go back into my XAML. And now if I click on this text box, you'll see here is that event, text changed, my text box underscore text change. And you also see it over here, events. There's an events button tab here. And you see text change. And you can see all these different types, tap, site change, selection, text input. Everything's there for you, so you kind of know what to write, which is really cool. So let's run that app, see what happens. Okay. Hello. You typed hello. Clear. Clear doesn't work. What do? I'm going to stop this emulator. Okay, if I want to do something with clear, what do?
So on click the clear, just clear the text box by setting it to some like blank string.
There you go. I double click. So you know the answer was I basically double click on that clear button on my button over there, and I'm going to do my text. Again, it gives you all that options, right? It's pretty cool. My text block dot text equals empty string. Okay, let's run. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Clear. Done. Look at that. Nice and easy. Okay, so that's your easy first phone app. Let's go a little deeper now. Okay. So let's talk about XNA game projects. can you guys build games for your CS50 project at all?
Yeah, I think.
Sure, you can? Okay. We won't be able to cover XNA in depth today, but we're talking about a follow-up session. We can either record it or come back. Right? So this is a demo on creating an XNA game. I guess we could do that real quick. So, file. Let me close that solution. I'm going to do new, project. Now, over here, XNA Game Studio 4.0. Let me do Control 1, right? XNA Game Studio 4.0. Now, take a look. I can actually, write a phone game, a library, something that's mixed with phone, Silverlight, and XNA, or I can write something for the PC. I can write something for the Xbox. All these tools are available for free. I actually don't remember if I told you where to go and get that specifically. So if you go to create.msdn.com, create.msdn.com will bring you to, where is that button? Oh, I'm already logged in. Sorry, I'm going to sign out. So if you are not logged in, you'll see this download free tools, get started now. And right here in really small writing is Windows Phone SDK 7.1. That includes all your tools from Visual Studio to creating XNA games to basically everything you need to build something for the phone or even the Xbox or the PC. So I'm just going to create a Windows Phone game, really blank. Okay. And I'm not really going to get into this that much, but I'll show you what the game does. Okay, so here is my, as you can see, I have something called, where is it over here? My content, right? My content's where all my sound files, my pictures, my arts and graphics go into. It's a little different. And if I run this game, again, click on that play button. Now, that's my game. That's my game. Yay, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Cornflower blue. What it's really doing is it's refreshing 30 times a second. So it's doing something called, it's redrawing. Let's see, I'm going to pause. Let me stop this. I'm going to get back into it later. I want to keep moving on, actually. So again, real simple. You can start adding content. You can put pictures in there, make things shoot out of, dragons and stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. But again, we basically give you the ability to make creating the phone game really easy, right? Where it automatically understands what swipes are. You don't have to, tell it to refresh. It automatically does the refresh for you. You don't have to do all this basic stuff that people used to have to do when they, coded games a long time ago. There's your drawing code. Again, you can combine Silverlight and XNA if you want text and game. But again, to review, you have these different project files that are part of assemblies, and then you basically bring these projects together, and then within that solution, there's all these different codes that you can execute. Really, really simple. Oh, all right. Let's go into the next section. So we kind of showed you about deploying an app to the phone. Actually, we didn't do that yet. You saw deploying to the emulator, but I'm going to walk through possibly deploying to the phone. You do need the Zune software to deploy to the phone, which I'll show you later when we actually deploy a ZAP file, XAP file. Developer phone registration is included with the tools. Again, if you download that Windows Phone SDK 7.1, you can actually type in Windows Phone Developer Registration, or just do phone. I just typed in Start Phone, and then up here you see on the top Windows Phone Emulator, the Developer Registration and Support tool. So if I click on that Developer Registration, okay, so phone registration. Instead of paying $99, again, if you sign into DreamSpark and AppHub using those codes I gave you, or walk through the process to verify that you're a Harvard student, you will be able to unlock your phone to basically deploy apps onto your phone. So that's what you want to do. I mean, that's definitely a cool thing to do. So you type in your live ID, and then you can basically register and then unregister. So I think you could register up to 3 phones, maybe it was. So before you go to the next phone, you want to unregister if you already reach your limit of 3. So deploying to the phone. Let's see. You have, on the top you'll see device and emulator. I'll go ahead and walk through deployment real quick. Deployment, application deployment up here in the top right. So I'm going to get my cable so I can connect my phone.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead while I'm setting this up.
So, is it not similar to how it runs on the simulator?
It is very similar to how it runs on the simulator. However, there are a couple of things which we are going to cover that you can't do in the simulator. So for example, like a multi-touch, if you're pinching, if you don't have a touch screen or a touch PC. Same thing with the accelerometer. We actually have a simulator for the accelerometer and sort of ways to do things with the phone, but it's not the same as actually having a device in your hands. Good question. So I'm going to plug my phone in over on the left side because I ran out of slots. And I do have to pull up Zune. So it's looking for this thing called a ZAP file, XAP. So we'll show you later how to get that ZAP file, but I have a couple of apps that I can walk through, including the Silverlight Toolkit, which I put on the USB stick. So it's going to deploy this ZAP file. Oops, I have to. Device is completely booted. I'm going to unlock. Phone deploy. So again, it's deploying to the Windows Phone device. I'm going to wait for this to be done. Takes a while the first time you do it. Well, that's deploying in the background. Let me keep going with the slides. Sorry. You can also do it to an emulator. So when you click that Run button up on top in Visual Studio, you could drag down and deploy directly to an emulator. Deployment problems. Excuse me. If you have a lock screen, just as you saw that I had, you will have a deployment error. You could do things like set the phone never to timeout, but I have a code in there, so I definitely want to do that. If they are, let's see, if you're using media, for example, like you want to do a lot of things with video or audio, and you have Zune open at the same time, you will have some issues, but the way to get around that is we have something called Windows Phone Desktop Pass-Through. Just do a friendly web search on that, where it's using this program called WP-DPT Connect so that you can bypass the ability to need Zune. So let me see if this thing deployed yet. Okay, deployment complete. So when I deploy, when I have my ZAP file deployed, let me pull up this viewer again. So I'm going to swap to the side. I'll just do a search for it. Silver. Oops. Where is it? Let me scroll down. Phone Toolkit sample, which I included again on that USB stick. It's pretty cool. It has all the code samples as well. So what ended up happening is, I deployed this ZAP file. Now I have it on my phone. And you have these things that give you the ability to kind of cut and paste code. Things like, if we can see this, let me block some. So date and time converters or date and time pickers, right? If you want to deploy this thing automatically, right? I included the code that you could just copy and paste pretty much into it, right? So you have things like the date time picker, the time picker. What else cool stuff was there? List picker, if you want to pick a few things from a list, right? It has that all set there. So you can actually see the text there. But again, I mean, it has all this phone toolkit, which is again on that USB stick, gives you a lot of really cool samples. Go ahead, question.
Are you saying that you can like copy all the code in the sample kit to the computer?
You can copy the code in the sample kit to your app that you're building, sort of as a sort of like a framework for, you know, it'll go ahead and so if I want to copy and paste the let's go back to the date and time picker, right? So if they have notes. So, you know, this is how to basically import it into your code. And you basically copy and paste, and it'll have this functionality. And then whatever you choose to do with it is up to you. Does it make sense? Good question. Oh, by the way, if you saw in this live tile, oh man, it's really hard to see it. What's really cool is there was a pop-up for eBay that said one of my things that I'm watching for an auction is about to end. So it's pretty cool. Okay, let me close this again.
If you move the thing over a little bit, will that help? Or?
Yeah, I just got to find a good place where there's no... Yeah, I'll give that a shot next time. Okay, 10 applications on the phone at a time that you could deploy for free without putting into the marketplace. So if you hit your 11th, you just have to delete one of them, which was a zap file that you deployed to the phone, and you know, now you do. So the emulator is close as possible to the phone, again, it's supplied with the SDK that you have to download. But again, it doesn't have that same experience. You're clicking and dragging through. Even if you have a touch screen, it's really not the same. Let's see, things like making calls, SMS messages, even taking pictures will not work on the simulator as well. Same thing with GPS. But again, there are ways to simulate that as well. In terms of debugging, you know, it's a really cool experience. We're actually going to go through creating breakpoints and doing single stepping, etc. So you can set a breakpoint. Let's give this example, right? You can click on the left. You'll see next to your code when I'm adding two numbers. On the left, if I click, you'll see this sort of red circle that appears, and that is one of the breakpoints. And what ends up happening is when you hit that breakpoint, it'll turn yellow. Right, so you know where that is. And there's some cool things you could do with breakpoints in the IDE for Visual Studio that you probably I don't think you could do anywhere else. It's pretty cool. We'll kind of show you. So it also shows you what the value is. These little thing, you know, where you could pin. If I enter 2 and that gets entered in variable 1, I can actually pin that and I can keep track of it live while I'm debugging my application. So it's pretty cool. You can always keep track of it. And again, stepping program, I can just hit step next to the next part of the code. And there's a lot of things that you can do to control. You know, you can execute different methods. You could pause the program. You could stop it. What I like too is you can manage different breakpoints. You can manipulate it. There's something called the immediate window where, you know, you're actually, say you're doing like a calculator function, right? And, you know, you're like, wait, I didn't expect that number to be 5, but it's really supposed to be 12. You can actually manipulate it. So even though it's really 5, you can manipulate it so it continues with 12. So there's really cool things you could do. While the code is executing, you could change the data real time. Go ahead, question.
You can only do it in the IDE, right? You cannot do it on the phone, right?
Correct. The question is, can you only do it on the IDE or the phone? Well, if you deploy the app to the phone as an emulator, I mean, you can, if you want to, in terms of code, yes, in the IDE. But in terms of like playing with it on the phone while it's getting debugged, you can do that on the phone, the physical phone itself. Absolutely. Right? But it'll still step through the code in the IDE. Does it make sense? Question?
You can print out like your error messages and they'll show up in the immediate window while you're playing with the phone.
That's right. All this stuff that's happening, you can actually debug real time while you're deploying the app to the phone rather than just the emulator. But you do need a phone, which if you stick around, you might end up getting one. Excuse me. I don't know if I said that too loud. Okay. So I'm going to do a demo of debugging this adding machine. So let's go back to demo mode. Let me close this out. Again, all this code is on that USB stick.
Can you only develop inside Visual Studio? Like, is there, like, if you were just to use Notepad somehow?
You can use Notepad and then paste it in, but if you want to go old school, but I think because of IntelliSense and the fact that you have all these tools available to you, I take advantage of it. Is there a reason you'd want to use Notepad instead, or?
Like Emacs or BIM?
Oh yeah, so I came from a computer science background. I went to BU, CS. We all did Emacs. I even did Pico, programming C and Pico. That was a lot of fun. And then when I discovered Visual Studio, man, it's like one of those things when you start, you can't go back. It's kind of heavy and rich, but it gives you the ability. It's really powerful. But I'm biased, of course. All right, let's go through this adding machine. So it's loading the solution, it's going to prep it, and then you'll see the XAML window pop up. Okay. Actually, so that's the CS page. Let me go through this, right? So here's the XAML. And already, basically what's really cool is, we have a lot of this pre-built stuff for you. So I can move this around. I can stretch it out. The ability to do whatever you want and customize it yourself. So let's run it as is. Let's see what it does. Okay, so here's my calculator adding machine app. So let's do 44 plus 3. Now, this is bad design. What do I mean by bad design? I want to hit calculate. Go ahead.
The fact that the keyboard comes up before the numbers.
Yeah, the fact that the keyboard comes up, before the numbers. What else? I want to actually go ahead.
Well, it sounds like
That's-
came up with letters as opposed to just numbers.
Came up with letters just as opposed to numbers. You guys are on it. I mean, we're going to definitely cover how to change that. Anything else in terms of design? Don't think about,
The text boxes are really big and they don't have to be that big.
I guess they don't have to be that big, but if you have a big number, you might want it. Right? If it's too small, right? It's really tough, right? I mean, we're all coders, are going to be coders, but you got to think about design. Let's think about the user experience. Go ahead, back there.
You have to move to separate text boxes and more than a number, and you can only do 2 numbers.
That's a good, you're getting warmer. There's one more thing that's really, really bugging me. The comment was, you have to move between different text boxes. But again, remember, you're doing this with a finger, so it's pretty quick. Think design, man, out of the box, man. We're all hardcore coders, I could tell. Go ahead.
I mean, it doesn't feel like a calculator when you open up a calculator. You just have your buttons right off the bat.
That's true. You do have your buttons off the bat. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. Think of the experience. What is my next step if I want to add this?
So you cannot press the button actually because
I think both of you got it. You can't press the button. Why?
Where's the number going to go?
Yeah, where's it go? So I have to click out, and then there's the equals, right? So, I mean, something as simple as that. Again, you got to think in terms of user experience. You guys were totally right about all the other stuff, but when it comes to that experience piece, that's a really big part of creating an app. So we're going to be talking about design stuff. Let me hit equals. Now, 88. What the heck happened there? Let's see. So I'm going to stop this. And it'll be kind of obvious once you see it, but I wanted to go through sort of debugging this app. Okay, here's my method. What's wrong? Go ahead.
You pull the number from the first box for V1 and V2.
Yep, for V1 and V2. I don't know why I'm stumbling right now, but I'm going to actually do a couple of these different breakpoints, and let's see what happens again. So again, on the left side, I left-clicked next to the line, and you can see it set up these little red dots. Okay, let me hit play again. You guys are on it, let me tell you. Okay, so here's my adding machine. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to do 777, and over here, 5. Now, equals. Bam, float 1. Okay, so it's starting to debug. over here, you see V1 is 0 right now. Hold on, let me zoom in. You see V1 is 0 right there. It hasn't gotten passed in yet, right? So if I want to step to the next step, I'm going to click Step Over, which is up here. Step Over, or I can hit F10. Now, check it out. V1 is 777, just as we expected. V2 hasn't been passed in yet, so I'm going to hit F10 to step through again. V2 is 777 down here. Obviously, I mean, we know in the code that we're adding the first number twice, but this is a really nice way to, to figure out what's happening step by step in the code. What I really love too is, well, I should have pinned it before, but if I do V1 plus V2, I can actually pin this, right? So as I step through the code, I can see if that changes. I can keep track of it. I can see what's going on. It's really cool.
How'd you do that again?
So what do you think is an easy way to do that? Let me close that. What would be an intuitive thing?
You just grab that line, highlight it.
Just put your mouse over it. Put your mouse over it, over here, V1 and V2, right? And then pin. I can't do, can I do that? Let's see if I can do it this way. All right, so if I highlight V1, does that make sense? Hold on, let's see. Whoop. Okay, so over here is float result. I have V1, and I can keep track of it. I just hit pin. Same thing, V2, pin. I forgot where my V1 plus V2 is.
You just highlight them.
Yep. Yeah, you just put your mouse over it, actually.
And if you highlight the whole expression, would it do
Oh,
V1 plus
let's see. Let me get rid of that. Nope. There you go. Thank you. You should, can you give that guy like something small swear? Okay. Thank you. The plus sign. All right, I mean, you get the point, so I'm going to pin that. And again, I can move it wherever I want. Oops. All right, that's getting me dizzy. Let me turn that off. Whoop, bye-bye. Okay, so again, this gives you sort of that idea. You guys get the point. So let me stop debugging. Oh, let me go ahead and... So what also happens if let me stop this. No, actually, we'll cover it later. Sorry. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Okay, so welcome to debugging and sort of being able to keep track. Okay, next thing. Designed for debug. Again, we can also do this in one statement, right? These things called intermediate values where, you can put it all in one statement, basically. So to review, you can set breakpoints, you can look at the different variables, you can pin them. So as you're going through and stepping through your code, you can actually keep track of what's happening in your code, and you can modify it using immediate window value. I didn't get to show you that later, but feel free to look it up. Feel free to look it up and see how you could continue with that. Okay, we'll keep going. All right, the emulator. This should be pretty straightforward. We're going to go through an overview. We're going to go through camera emulation. All right, cool. Let's go back to topics, right? Overview of the emulator. We're going to go through camera, location, position. Sort of these, quick and easy things that you could do with like geolocation, with maps, something nice and quick. Especially when you're building apps, you just want to kind of get right into it, which is pretty cool about the SDK here. There is no Zune Media Playback for the emulator, again, so that's where you're going to need your phone. And things like placing calls, SMS, text messages, you can't do that through the emulator. And the performance is, we try to throttle it accordingly so it's consistent with the actual device, but you're never going to get the real experience unless you have the phone. Again, this emulator really is for testing only. And run it on a real device. Sometimes you'll run it on the emulator, it works, and then you go to a phone and there's something going on over there. And again, deploying to the emulator, there's that drop-down box. We can go through that again later. It's pretty real, pretty similar, but it's not going to be the same thing. And what else does want to say? You can also browse on the phone. That's nice. Okay, cool. So in terms of when you're using the emulator for a camera, you'll see what ends up happening. You can't take live pictures or anything, but there's GPS and motion sensors that is pretty cool that you can do. Same thing with the interface. I mean, a lot of it, the mouse gives you the ability to kind of simulate a click, or a multi-touch display if you actually have that multi-touch display, as someone asked earlier. You can do. And same thing, touching on the keyboard is great. And there's a way you can actually use your keyboard instead of clicking with your mouse. And we'll show you that. It's basically hitting page up. Using PC keyboard, it says over here pause break, but you can also use page up. That's easier for me. And again, well, let me go back to that slide. That gives you the ability to type in without using the emulator keyboard. Just use your own physical keyboard. There's something called orientation. So, if you have a portrait or landscape view, you can control what happens when. And you can also set if it's allowed, if this app is allowed to be in landscape or if it's allowed to be in portrait. So this is what landscape orientation would look like. It's pretty cool. So over here, you see that refresh button. I mean, in the app bar, those icons automatically pivot along 90 degrees as you are changing landscape. And, it's pretty cool the way it does it automatically. You don't even have to deal with it. Camera function. So when you're emulating the camera, you'll see like a little box here to emulate what the camera looks like. And when you click, you'll see basically. But if you see this box, it's working. Photo snap. So let's give you an example of photo snap. Oh, snap. Okay. Let me close these things. See you later. Okay, photo snap. Loading the project. And I'm going to go to my page.xaml. Again, everything XAML will show you sort of your emulator and the XAML code in the middle, as well as the Solution Explorer and everything on the right. So let's see what this looks like. As you can see, there's Take Picture and Choose Picture. Now, how do I find out what the code is behind Take Picture? What can I do? I mean, you're kind of learning this really easy. Double click, yep, double click. So if I double click on that Take Picture, guess what? It brings me to this. Right? If camera, then basically taking your picture. What's really cool, again, with the USB stick that I gave you, I will includes all the code. Yes, question.
I guess every time we select a button, we've been clicking on it. But what if you want to do a swipe or something?
If you want, so the question is, every time it's basically if you double click on it, it brings you to a click. What if you want to do a swipe? What if you want to do something else? Outstanding question. I think you already got something so free, so we won't give you something else. Maybe later. I'm joking. Okay, on the bottom right, you'll see here something called events. Okay, you see properties. There's the properties where you can, what the content is. That's Take Picture. That's what the button name is. Now, if I click on events, guess what? It brings me to all the different events that can be called. So double tap, hold, key down, key up. Right? There's a couple of more. So that is where you can call these different events. Let's see. And if I do this, something like this. Let's do photo button. Let me go into the code. Oh, hold on. So, hold on. Sorry. I want to get to somewhere else. Oh, CS. I wanted to go to CS, sorry. So what's really cool is maybe I do something like photo, but actually not here. I'll show you this later, sorry about that. I'm kind of getting thrown off right now. Okay, so let me go ahead and debug this application. Basically what ends up happening is IntelliSense will, when you hit dot, it'll show up all the different events that you could do. That's what I've been meaning to do, but. Okay, so here's my photo app. Okay, let me click Take Picture. Is there a sound? Okay. So over here, this is supposedly emulating when you're holding the camera, right, with your photo. So if I do something like this, actually I'll take a picture now. Oh, my phone's connected, so I can't do that. All right, over here you actually have the snap, the picture button. So picture. Guess what? Bam! I got my little box. That means it worked. All right, let me accept that. So here's my picture now. Now, if I could also choose picture, you know, I can choose something in my gallery or it's in the camera roll. Click on 3, bam. I mean, that's really, really straightforward and easy. Again, you could use the Silverlight Toolkit and you can use all these different things to control what you want to do for this app. But here's a good sort of template on how to call the camera. Nice and simple. We're going to get into a little more interesting stuff too. So, and again, these slides are part of the USB stick that I gave you. They are in PDF format. So location emulation, you can actually generate data. You can feed it XML files which have your longitude and latitude. You could also add additional points to your map app. So there is a emulator for location data. I'll walk through this and you'll see what you can do. What happened here? Let me unplug my phone. You can also place push pins, right? And then you can replay your route, stuff like that. Pretty cool. So let me do that demo. Nice and easy. Let's go demo. I'm going to close Photo Snap. Snap. Emulator. So it's going to load up this project. Any questions so far? You guys are enthralled. Hardcore, let me tell you. Okay, what's really cool, so, if I click on this map, what's cool is in the toolbox, there's something called Map over here. Drag and drop. All right, and then you can start adding some functionality to it, but it's pretty sweet. I know with the other phones, I think you either have to pay for an account to use the map application or directions, or I forgot what you have to pay for. With Bing Maps and the APIs, they're all free for you guys, so it's pretty cool. Free is nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this, and I'll show you what that emulator is all about. Or in Canada, they'd say a boot, or a boot. Oops. Why do I have an error? Failed. Let me try that one more time. If not, I have a backup. Always good to have a backup. My demos were going great so far. There's always something that has to happen, right? There's always one demo that doesn't work. Give it to me. You can do it. Okay, here we go. It is loading it from the web. Now, when you insert a map app, right, it's basically downloading the map information. You'll get this message. It is sort of a pain, and you can't see it right now. Hold on. Invalid credentials, go here to sign up for a developer account. There we go. Right? So the way to get past that is you go to this URL. I did it actually right before I came here because I never had an account. So it was literally 3 clicks in typing out my information, and I got this code that I could fill up for free. I love that, for free. And I'll show you where I added that. Let me see if I could find it. So what ends up happening is you're supposed to generate some credentials. So this is mine. Please don't steal it. Create your own. It's free. So over here in the map, you'll see my map equals, the name is my map, credentials provider. There is a placeholder for binding credentials provider over here. So let me, right? That's where it is, binding credentials provider. And what you do is you get rid of that. Boop, delete. Sorry, I like sound effects right now. It's getting late. Okay, so I put in my credential right there, and let me run the emulator again. How easy was that? Let me tell you. Free, F-R-E-E. Did I plug that enough? Okay. My location, yay! No more stinky error message or little error message. Now, if you notice when I kind of try to look other places, it snaps me right back to Seattle, which is Microsoft's campus over here, because it thinks this is where my location is. So if I go to the emulator and click on this arrow, I want to zoom in. There we go. That little double arrow over there that's highlighted, that'll give you more functionality for the phone. So let me hit escape. I'm going to click on this. Now, the double arrow, you'll see, we'll get to maybe show the accelerometer a little later. Actually, let's do it now over here. Check it out. Over here, you see on the bottom, these coordinates are being updated. Those coordinates over there are being updated as you drag the phone. So again, maybe you're creating a game where, what's that game where you got to put the balls in the hole in like a maze thingy? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like Labyrinth or Mouse. Labyrinth, I guess, is it. Right? So if you want to do that, I mean, this is what you could use the accelerometer for, and you can really shake. And what's really cool is there's also pre-recorded data. So if you want to do a shake, take a look at the coordinates, see what happens. I hit shake, bam, it goes nuts. I'm shaking the phone, right? And you get to actually see what your app does. But we're dealing with location right now, so I'll stop that. All right, I'm going to do a search for Harvard University. Enter. Bam, that was quick. Look how awesome Bing is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click there. Right, so now my location on the left, you'll see it gets updated to Harvard University. Internet connection a little slow, so it's pulling all that data. And now if I want to scroll away, it'll snap me right back to where I was. Now you could also add these different locations. Maybe I'll hit the cemetery because it is Halloween weekend. And you can actually add these different points on the bottom left, right? So you can play around with this. This gives you the ability to fool around with location. Fire every 1 second up here. I mean, gives you the ability to do a lot of really cool things with the map app for free. Sorry. Okay, it's getting old, I know. All right, let me stop this. Okay.
So
yeah.
the emulator is not actually connected to like a satellite. You are like artificially giving it.
You are artificially given that stuff, so you can emulate it. But if you deploy your app to the phone, then it's really, you know what I mean? Like you can walk, if you have a cord long enough or something, you can bring your laptop with you and run a mile, carry your laptop and phone with you, then you can see what happens. Good luck. If you create that app, let me know because I want to see it in action. Right. Location demo. Done. All right, orientation. So we have these different tabs. I, kind of gave it away, but you have this, the ability to manipulate your phone through the emulator and the accelerometer. Again, it's all virtual, but you kind of get an idea of how your app will react. Orientation demo. Isn't this easy? You guys are almost like halfway done with your CS50 projects. It's almost like cheating. All right, orientation demo. Preparing solution. Okay, so orientation, we'll see what this does. But it basically gives you the ability to see what your X, Y, and Z coordinates are when you are playing around with the accelerometer. So let me hit play to debug. And here we go. Okay, so let me go back to the accelerometer. Boop. Right, there you go. Play around with the phone. Yay, I'm dizzy. Oh my God. Right, so you kind of see the X, Y, and Z coordinates. It does reflect what's down here. And you can basically take that code and do what you want with it. Imagine writing that from scratch when you have no idea. You just cut and paste. Done. We said we're not open source, man. You could take this source code and plug it right in. We won't sue you. All right. It's like Staples, man. It's the easy button. All right. I love those commercials. We should do the one for like easy button for writing apps. Easy. Done. Accelerometer. Boom. All right. Capturing screenshots. You could use the emulator also to capture screenshots when you're uploading your app to the marketplace. We'll want screenshots, and this will give you the ability to do that. And there's a screenshot tab as well. Zoom level, so it gives you an idea of what it would look like to zoom, at specific percentage. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Capturing a screenshot, again, next to location, you have accelerometer and location. You have screenshot up there. Right? So again, that's if you want to capture a screenshot. Pretty straightforward. So to review, gives you basically the emulator gives you a lot of stuff when it comes to creating a GPS simulator or an accelerometer. Some of those things are more virtual, but it gives you the ability to at least fool around with it. The camera, not so much. GPS, physical location, unless you're deploying it to the phone, not so much easier either. So that's that session. I think it's 9 o'clock. Let me do one more sort of demo, a little more fun code stuff. Actually, I have a couple of fun code stuff, but we'll only get to a certain amount. Let's do intro. Let's get a little deeper, and then I'll show you something with Blend, which is a designer studio. So it does all these transformations without writing code, essentially. You're going to see, you can't find this anywhere else to make it that easy. Again, the easy button. All right, let's going to go through Silverlight, Metro. Anyone know what Metro is? Go ahead.
The design language, the principles behind the user interface.
The design language and the principles behind the user interface. You paid attention during that session. Good for you, man. We'll go through some Silverlight and XAML, sort of the layout, as well as components and events. So software and design, again, this is sort of the panorama look, right? A lot of the apps, you have to fit it all into one small window, where with Windows Phone, what's really cool is you could spread it out within multiple pages and kind of have one fluid experience where you're swiping to the side. You see Music Plus at the top, and you can swipe it because there's something there. Versus, the other phones, it's just really vertical scroll up and down. That's all you could do, and hit back, and then go back to the, this is sort of a little more, I think, fluid and beautiful. So anyway, it's also a sad fact for this point that a lot of programmers, and we were talking about this earlier, are not designers. You guys are code monkeys. Man, you can code the crap out of anything really well. But when it comes to design, the functionality is all there, but man, does it look disgusting, right? So Windows Phone, this software development kit, has a really good way of making your app not look that crappy, right? So, it removes maybe like 30% uglification, if that's a word. I'll just make it up right now. Uglification, my God. What's wrong with me? I'm tired. Okay. Also, most programmers don't, most designers also don't program. But it's really cool, though, with Blend, and which we'll see shortly, and Visual Studio. That combination is really cool between the designers and the coders. You'll see why and how this is really cool and easy. Again, as one of these students were explaining very well, it's sort of our language, this Metro design. As you see, it's everywhere, man. First it was in Zune, then the phone. Then if you guys saw Windows 8 previews, I can't say more than that because I'll have to kill all of you. But, if I tell you, anyway, that didn't sound good. But no, it didn't. But again, this design language is a really cool way, and a new way, I think, of creating a really cool user experience. Silverlight and Metro, again, we're trying to really make it easy for you guys to build a cool application, make it really functional, and make it look pretty as well. There's this user guideline. I'm going to go to this link just so you can see it, and it's pretty cool. It shows you sort of what we look at as design, sort of what are the parameters of, spacing and, what the button should look like, where it should be placed, all this other stuff. So while that's loading in, and keep going, not to, just kind of keep it going. But we'll go back to that. But basically, it's, again, the user design guidelines. Separation of tasks. Basically, a design, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the designer that's going to design the app? And then is it going to, are they going to send it to the coders and then they'll code it? Or are the coders going to write it and then the designers make it pretty? It's really, different. What typically happens, right, in these companies is you'll have like designers work on Photoshop, right, and then kind of build this thing out, and then the coder has to piece all of that together. What's great about Expression Studio is that whatever the designer creates, all those functionalities, everything that you do, the transformations is going to get ported into Visual Studio. So you don't have to recode that stuff. It's automatically there for you, which is really cool, and I'll show you that shortly. So this is what Blend looks like. There is a learning curve if you're not really much of a designer, but once you kind of get the hang of it, and I'll go through a quick Blend demo, it's pretty cool. And then again, you can switch back and forth between Blend and Visual Studio. But Blend will, another word, prettify, beautify. Maybe I'll use that one. Jeez. I'm starting to, all right, I won't go there. Okay. Graphical interface. Okay, tools for the job, right? For code creation, a developer can take that design that the designer created, maybe using Expression Studio, and putting it over to Visual Studio. This Visual Studio gives you somewhat of a design aspect, right, when you can drag buttons, but it doesn't give you all these different transformations, these things, the ability to change color and choose from a color picker. All these different things you can do in Expression Blend really easily. As programmers, we worry about like where do we start, but again, no matter how good the code is, man, if these users have a really terrible time with your app, they're just not going to use it. Right? We saw, man, you got to click out just so I can calculate that app. Right? So again, you got to think in terms of design as well. It's a really good way to create a program that people will download, people will pay for. We're starting with Silverlight. Let's see. It's really good. I don't know if you guys have group projects for your CS50 final projects, but if you do, make sure there's at least one designer and one coder, because I think you'll sort of get that full-blown experience. And what you create in the end, if the code's not 100% great, but the designer is awesome, man, you can actually create a really fun app rather than two coders who create something but it looks ugly as sin and they don't, no one wants to use it. Have that combination. I think it'll be really good. And again, Metro, or actually the SDK provides you all these different templates with Panorama, with Pivot. So you can just start at focusing on the functionality of your app versus, do I want to design it? Man, I have to write this code from scratch. It's all there. The framework is all there. It's up to you to really make this app pretty and make it functional. But all the back-end stuff is there. Focus on the app, not all the little bits and pieces that make the app. That's why I think, CS50 is really cool because you get to see all these really things that you can create, and then of course you go into the hardcore code. But it's really nice to see, how I can create something really simple. Especially, you guys are doing a lot of people go to startups, and a lot of people love doing stuff at Microsoft as well. So if you want to get a job, you really do. Anyway, the point is, this really gives you the ability to build something cool. So this is the difference between Panorama and Pivot. Again, flicking through different screens, you'll get to see that. So there's three types. There's that Panorama, there's the Pivot, and then there's just sort of, so start from the beginning, just your basic app. Then there's Pivot. So when you click on one of those buttons, it kind of pivots to the next tab. You see first and second, etc. This is already created for you. You can use the template that's already built in. Same thing with that Silverlight toolkit that I sent you. It kind of takes this to the next level. And then Panorama on the right, where you can have this background picture. I forgot what the term is, but basically the foreground moves quicker than the background, so it has this sort of like parallactic. Thank you very much. I don't have anything to throw you right now. Come see me afterwards. But you got it. That's it. All right, Metro templates and components. Again, you know, you got tons of these templates. You want to build a phone game. You want to build a panorama. You want to add like a pivot and then add some panorama pages to your code. It's all right here, man. The adding machine, going back to it. What happens if you type a text, right? Remember when the keyboard came up, it was text, and then you had to press the 1, 2, 3 button to, you know, to get it to actually put a number in. But guess what? Again, why would you put a keyboard, a QWERTY keyboard, rather than numbers at the beginning? And then you're also displaying it at the bottom, but your keyboard blocks it. I mean, you know, it doesn't make sense. Each of these things are, you know, rendering again of these different objects. So you have the application title, page title. You guys can read, but first number, text, second number equals button, result text. All of these are different elements. You know, you got buttons, you got text boxes, you got text blocks. All these different elements compose your or create your phone app. And also, how does it appear on the screen, right? I mean, what's really cool is you get this live data as you're, you know, dragging your items back and forth. You can see the number of pixels it's from the edge. Or, you know, you can have these things that snap. So if I have a window up here and I drag another object, snap, this is exactly underneath the other one. Or you can go into the XAML and change the code yourself. But again, it's really cool. That snap feature just makes things really clean. In terms of element class hierarchy, right, everything falls under the framework element. So you have all these text boxes, text block, these buttons. They go through a different hierarchy. I mean, this is basically the fundamentals of creating an app and all how it works together. And again, you can you know, add your own in here, or sort of figure out how your app will be created. In terms of the adding machine, we're going to kind of get a little deeper, right? We have the text box, which is basically the ability. So there's some confusion, right? Text box, that's where I can enter text. Text block, that's where text is sort of outputted to, right? It's not anything you can change. And button is a button, really straightforward. And you can use that to cause events in the application. As you see, you just have to double click on the button or double click on the text box, and it'll bring you to different things. You also have the events tab on the bottom right where you can choose different functionalities. And then again, elements in XAML. So you can change the code through XAML, right? Or you can even do it on the live emulator. I mean, there, you know, it all ends up in the same result. It's just you choose how to do it yourself, whatever you want to do, right? So this is the grid. So what's contained inside the grid is a text box and a button. Grid is basically a container, right? Container of different elements and objects. So there's the text box, right? You have the height, you have horizontal alignment. Here's a really cool trick I learned from Jesse Liberty, who wrote some books for O'Reilly. And I already had it included here, but let me do a new project. Oops. New project. Give me Silverlight for phone. What's really cool is if you have tons of stuff in XAML, and you want to really clean it up. Let's see. I'll give an example here. All right. Let me drag in a button, or let's do text block. Okay. So over here in the code, see, I already enabled it, but you see how all these different properties. Oops. All these different properties are on its own line. Visual Studio can do that for you. If you go to Tools, there's a Tools, Options. Oh man, I'm trying to find this now. I forgot where it was. Text Editor maybe. XAML, General. Formatting maybe. I'll have to, oh man. Okay, here. This is what you want. Position each attribute on a separate line. By default, it's that middle one. Insert a single space between attributes. But by checking this third box, and again, or third radio button, it's in XAML spacing, XAML formatting spacing. It basically does this for you. So if I have like this text box, let me cut and paste it. check it out. It did x:name, text, and style all in separate lines, which makes your code much easier to use. So I wonder if I could do, I've never done it this way. I'll cut and paste everything and see if it cleans the code up. Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? Right? So yay, we got another applause. I really love this. Rather than doing a Control F and finding stuff, man, just take your code, Control A, Control X, and paste it in there. Control V it. Boom. Why am I saying boom? Okay. All right, I'm going to... Jeez. But I like that trick. I think you will too. But wait, there's more. I felt like that's what I'm in infomercial right now. Okay. So you got your button over here, right? It automagically did that spacing for you, right? Actually, no, it didn't. Haha, fail. See, margin and name are on the same line. But with my trick, well, Jesse Liberty's trick, you can cut and paste it. Button click event handler. You basically parse it through. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? Calculating, displaying the result. It's this click handler by double-clicking on the click button. So let's go through this Silverlight adding machine that does work, and we'll maybe fool around with it a bit. So let's go to the adding machine. Bam. I'm going to close Zoom out. Oh, in the meantime, while that's loading, here's the user experience guidelines, as that I was saying. The application design process, I happen to click on it. And general design principles. It gives you an idea of, I thought it had some pictures in here. Yeah, right? So it gives you an idea of how to create something pretty metro. Right? Like this is what Money looks like, MSN Money. This is Amazon's, app. Right? What news should be what news should look like? How you can make these apps clean. Right? These application bar buttons at the bottom. You could have up to 4. It needs to mean something. Be in motion. Be fluid. Make sure these things, understand sort of how when you click on something, you see sort of it pivots out. Right? What does that motion mean? Simple, ready, realistic, etc. I mean, this is what Twitter looks like. You can tell, right? It's using Panorama. You can, slide over to the side and make these colors nice and clean. It's really good. I mean, these general design principles gives you an idea of how to create something metro. So let's run this app. Here is my adding machine. By the way, if you guys notice, there's these sort of numbers on the right. I think you could look it up. It deals with like performance metrics and all these other things that's happening internally. So you could look up what those means, but basically that's normal. So when I click on these buttons, what happens if I type a letter? Bam, right? Does not work. I'll break it. So I hit a breakpoint. Actually, let me run through that again. I have a couple of different things I want to show you. So let's make this work, first of all. So I'm going to hit page up. So if I hit page up, you see the keyboard goes away, the virtual keyboard. Now I can type stuff in. So blah, 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 blah. Remove, blah, 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 equals. Oh, unhandled exception. What did I do? What's that? Oh, thank you. You guys were quick. That's what I get for saying blah, 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 blah. One more time. All right, this should work. Sorry. Page up. Goes away. Dot. Okay, there you go. I guess it's kind of helpful. Let me see some things. All right, I'm going to stop debugging. As you saw, I mean, some things were kind of freaking out. Let me do 2 dots. All right, so it failed. Let me step through. Keep stepping through. All right, it basically crashes your app. So look, where's the stuff I want to show you? Let me try to find the cool things that I want to show you. All right, here we go. Here's some things. First of all, here is the supported orientations. Portrait. Let me swap panes, design. I'm going to go with the XAML. I'm going to zoom out here, sorry. All right, so portrait or an orientation is portrait. So in terms of, you want to find out what the different orientations can be. Let me put that back to 100 because it's going to be hard to see. What I could do, when I delete it, instead of typing something, I hit Control Space, and it calls up IntelliSense. So it tells me at the beginning, these are the supported orientations. It could be landscape, portrait, or landscape over here. So when you choose portrait or landscape, Control Space. When you choose portrait or landscape, when you flip the phone to the side, it'll automatically swivel the rest of the phone. Right? So that Control Space is your friend. But let me do that for now. And click Enter, Portrait. So if I click on the first button, let's see, what did I wanted to show you here? Text block height. Let me click on that. I'm going to double click. Text change. Actually, no. I think I just wanted to show you that working app. All right, hold on. Let me go through the rest of this and make sure that's all I wanted to show you. So we got that adding machine working, right? The keyboard use. There's the ability to, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do, orientation. Well, basically, it already ruined it for me, right? When you flip it to the side, you can make sure that it does not switch the orientation. You control that. Remember, it's portrait or landscape. And you saw where I could change that. Using a stack panel, what's really cool, so you guys have grids. Now if you create a stack panel, what it'll end up doing is change the orientation for you, make things look pretty, and make things aligned. So let's go back to my code. And let me look at the XAML. So if you see here, I can kind of move stuff around. What I want to do is, this is not going to look pretty. I'm going to do a new one. So as you can see, hold on, let me see. You can kind of move these things around. But when I have a stack panel, you'll see what the difference is. So I'm going to create something new with a stack panel. Windows Phone application. I do not want to save it. So here's a blank app. And I'm going to put toolbox, and I'm going to drag in a stack panel on the bottom left over here. So within the stack panel, there we go, sorry. What I can do, maybe I'll make it this big. Now I'm going to start putting other things in, like a button, text block, and maybe a text box. So this stack panel keeps things really organized for you. So I'm going to make these a little smaller. So you'll see, if I try to move these things out of the way, guess what? It centers them. So that way, within a stack panel, everything is aligned. You don't have to worry about moving it to different locations. When you change the orientation, it will continue to be in the center of the phone, right? Because if you don't use a stack panel when you kind of, orient it landscape, it's going to remain, in that same area. It might just look awkward and not, end off center. So that stack panel will kind of save you trouble in terms of design. Okay. Orientation handling. We're kind of running out of time, so I'm gonna pass by it. Error handling. Let's see. So we also want to deal with error handling, right? For that phone adding machine app. So what you could do is you could handle errors, right? If you, there's something called try catch. So where you're trying these different things. So if it is not text, or I'm sorry, if it's not a float number, then it will catch it and say invalid number. Right? So basically, if these pass true, then it'll pass that. So again, try catch. What that ends up happening is that message box.show is this thing called invalid number. Input scope. So in terms of, you want to not have a QWERTY keyboard and you want to have just numbers, text box input scope equals number. Right? That's the ability to just make sure that it accepts numbers as the input. So let me do the complete adding machine. We'll see all this stuff put together and where the code lies. Okay, so I brought that up. I'll try not to keep you here till 10. I'll do one more demo. That's kind of cool, but I just wanted to show you this stuff. So let me run this app. As you saw, there is a breakpoint to show message. So let's test this out. Okay, I'm going to click there. I'm going to bring back my keyboard. Oops. There you go. So I did a page down to do that, right? So now I just have this plus equals 4937. Let's try to see what happens if I do that. Right? Now, bam, it's going to go ahead and give me an error message, right? Because these are not floating numbers. It had more than one decimal. So let me step through the code. And there you go, right? It calls invalid number. So you can still get through that, yeah.
I noticed that you have a try catch, but you don't catch a particular exception. Is there a way to catch just one exception? Because I know in Java it's usually not the best practice to catch a general exception.
So can you repeat the question? It's basically, can you catch?
Can you catch a particular exception? Like I think the last one you saw was syntax format exception. Can you catch a particular type of exception?
Yes, I think you could catch a particular type of exception. If you have an example, let's talk about it after. But I think the answer is yes. Which is actually a really good, sort of error handling, or at least debugging. So let me close that. What's the other thing I wanted to show you? Let me go back to that text box. Now, if you see text box input scope equals number, so if I delete that, I hit control space, text box, maybe not. Well, I guess does not get, oh, there you go. Yeah, no, you can't do it that way. But again, you saw a number, etc. Hold on, I think it's getting, if I'm starting to talk a little funny, then that means I'm ready to show the next demo. Okay, so, oh, look at that. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next demo. We can kill this. I'm just going to show you the demo and not go through the PowerPoints just because you don't need to. And not save it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you sort of the expression, Visual Studio to Expression Studio. Where am I?
Can you download that from DreamSpark?
Can you download which from DreamSpark?
Expression Studio?
Yes, in that one download from SDK, it includes Visual Studio and Expression Studio for you. So
I downloaded the SDK, but I didn't get Expression Studio.
just type in, yeah, it's guaranteed. Let me, hit start, type in expression. See if that works. The phone SDK includes everything. If you're having trouble, I'll come get you in a second. So let me go back to desktop. You got it? All right, very good. And I'll show you another way to actually launch Blend, right? So over here with animations, I have my begin code. It's called Flipkart. Now, if I right-click, I can do open with expression blend, right? But I'll show you how to do it sort of the manual way. Oh, oops, I did it again. No, that's Britney Spears. Oops, I opened it up in Visual Studio. I got a Britney Spears song in my head now. This is terrible. God. Oh, okay, it's late. All right. Over here, if you right-click on your solution, check it out. I don't see it. Hold on. if you right-click on your project flip card, you can open an expression blend. So it's taking your code from Visual Studio and exporting it to Expression Blend, where you can now take it into sort of your designer mode. So put your designer cap on. Let's see what we could do. Do you want to load the code and load the project? Hit yes. Kind of spacing out, so I hope I get this demo 100% the first time. Let's see what happens. But this is your Expression Studio, where you have a designer sort of aspect of doing things. So over here, like for example, if I click on page name, I can actually change the color. I mean, with a color picker. Real easy. I mean, you can go crimson, Harvard crimson or something. Avid. Sorry. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an app that flips a card around. Right? And I'm going to put, I think, maybe like one line of code. And we're going to make it happen. So when you tap it, it flips. And I actually had a challenge for you guys to make it flip back again. But let me try to get this demo the first time. So I have these pictures. So let's start with card back. And I'm going to drag it in. And now I have the back of a card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it's spread out in all margins. Oops. What happened here? Oops, thank you. Forgot one. Okay, so let me zoom out on this thing so you can see what's happening. Okay, here's my app. Here's a card. I'm going to create something called a storyboard. Here I hit plus, so I'll zoom in and show you where it did. So here's the storyboard, and I clicked on the plus over here. I'm going to name this card rotate storyboard. Remind me of what that name is because I'll probably forget it. Card rotate storyboard. And what I could do with this card rotate storyboard is you'll see sort of a timeline on the bottom left over here, right, where I could see different things. There's these little egg-shaped things, which it's basically a marker, and I could play through the card storyboard. And what's awesome is under transform, so I clicked on the little down arrow on transform, and it brings me to sort of this transform functionality. So the card is highlighted now. Over here, I can actually set different properties. So I can rotate the card and see what it looks like over here. Again, I'm left-click holding and moving my card around. But what I want to do is actually going to zero these out. And I'm going to start this out as at negative 90 degrees. So at negative 90 degrees, you see the card flipped right on its side. And what I'm going to do, if I remember, is... Oops, actually, no, I don't want to start on its side. Sorry. I want to start with its face up. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it to 1 second. And I'm going to change this to negative 90. So what ends up happening is, that's called image. What ends up happening is time 1 second, the card is at 90 degrees or negative 90 degrees. So if I hit play, look at that. It's going to go ahead and rotate. What else do I want to do? I want to show you this thing over here. I clicked on this little, circular egg thingy. There's something called an easing function where I can ease into that card moving. So let's see. You see it starts out slow and then goes really quick. I can even do, what's crazy, elastic. This is going to be nuts. Wow, my God. Okay, so you should add those special sound effects when creating this. But let's try to make it nice and simple first. So let's do exponential easing in. Okay, so that is time 1. So let me close this for now. Now what I'm going to do is, for the second part of it, I want to take the front of the card and flip it. So it's basically going to do one 180 rotation thing. It's my lovely assistant, Jeremy. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to also make sure that the margins are all set to 0. And I'm going to start this out as 90 degrees projection. So it starts out as hidden, right? And what I'm going to do is go back to my card rotate storyboard. And at time 1, well, let's play it first. Now I have both cards sort of, 90 degrees facing. What I'm going to do for, I want to call this image, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to delete that. I want to call image 1, sorry. So I'm going to go back to the card back. I'm really bad at naming stuff. All right, I just want to name it image 1. So over here, I can actually name the object. So let's call this image, actually image 2. Okay, I'm happier now. So at image 2, I am going to start this at negative 90 degrees. And I'm going to open my storyboard again. And then now at time 1, it's there. At time 2, what I'm going to do, whoops, I'm going to mark it time 1, mark it time 2. These are called keyframes. And that time 2, I'm going to make this 0 degrees again. Okay? And at time 2, I'm also going to click on that little easing function keyframe, and I'm going to do an exponential out. So what ends up happening, let's start from the beginning. Whoa. Okay. Actually, it didn't look correct, did it? Let's do from time 1. I think I wanted 90 degrees, not negative 90. So let me start that again. 90. That'll be 0, 0. Oops. Sorry, I want this 90. Sorry, what I'm doing for image 2 is starting it at 90. There we go. I think that's better. 90. Okay, let's play that. Oh, I kind of still screwed it up, but whatever. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I am going to save this and load it back into... actually, you know what I'm going to do? This is what I'm going to do, sorry. I'm going to hit stop that. Okay, so I selected the card, and under the tap event, right, so I double-clicked on tap. And what that ends up doing is bringing me here where I can type in the code. This dot, what was it called? Story, card, rotate storyboard, dot begin. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is when I tap that card, I'm going to tap it, it's going to go ahead and play that storyboard. So how many lines of code was that? 1 line of code. It's like 6-minute abs. You can make 5-minute abs. 1 line of code. Sorry. Getting cheesier as the... Okay, so I'm going to run the project. I'll be quiet now. So I could hit F5 or run. It's building.
Can you play the animation in reverse?
You can play the animation in reverse. That's actually, if you want to try to solve the second half, I challenge you, and maybe we'll give you a big prize for that. So if I click, right, and then guess what? Who wants, do we have time? Maybe we could do this in maybe 5 minutes. Do we have a good prize for someone that could complete this code? Jeremy, do you think?
Yeah.
Who wants to complete this code and make it so that it flips back to the front? Anyone want a big challenge? Go for it. All right, let's give them a hand. Yay! Come up here. You want to come up here. And what we could do is deploy it to the... so the hint is create another storyboard that will...
create another one?
well, in addition, so you have this storyboard, or you have card rotate storyboard, and then maybe you could do like card, like another animation that flips it back. No, you could use the mouse.
Okay.
Anyone want to give them hints? Try to help them walk through this? So, yep, you do card storyboard. No, that's cool. So hit play. If you hit play, you'll see that's the first part of it, right? Now we want the second part of it. So what we could do, actually I'll give you a hint real quick, is, yep, there you go. What do you guys want to name it?
Rotate back.
Okay. Card rotate back. Hit enter. Now, so this is the beginning of card rotate back. Now what should this picture look like at the beginning of this? Yep, that's right. So it should be, so if you click on that, or now on the top
Resources.
left, there, nope, properties.
Oh, properties.
Yep, click properties. Over here.
This.
Yep, properties. Now,
There we go.
how do we flip that to 90 degrees?
We can just say
There you go.
190.
Hit it 90. Now, what do you want to do to the other image?
Put it to 0.
There you go. Put it to 0.
Go back here. and-
Okay, now check it out. So we flipped it, right? You have 90 degrees and you have 0 degrees, and you are time slot number 1. So now we're going to forward to time 1 for image. Let's see. Yep, go ahead. Image 1. Put a keystone to. I'm sorry, it's over here. Yeah, click on that. Okay, so what should that be?
0. Negative 90.
Okay. Cool.
And we'll go back to image 2.
Yep.
Do the reverse.
Your keystone's not on this stuff.
Oh. You're right, it's a little bit off. There we go.
There we go. Look how easy that was.
We'll leave that.
So image 2, keystone it at 0, I guess also. Yep, that's good. You can even drag the yellow thing from the top.
Okay.
But actually at time 1, don't you want it to flip back maybe? So
Yeah. I could put a keystone, or I could just move this up, right?
Yep.
Move that back up.
there you go.
And I'll add another keystone at the end.
Yep. Good job. Make sure you're on image 2. Yes, you are.
Image 2. So here it should be, I think we said negative 90.
Let's give it a shot.
Then go to this keys. There we go.
Well, hit play. Let's see what happens. Kinda, I think, because we changed it around. But anyway, let's give it a shot. So let's go to the code. You can do
CS.
main XAML.cs. Now what you can do is actually, I think we create a second one. Go back to your XAML, or we can always,
We're going to save it maybe?
yep.
All right.
And then we call this
Yeah,
card rotate
Card
back.
rotate back. So we could put some Boolean, I'm thinking.
Actually, hold on. Go back to XAML.
Okay.
What you want to do is you click on the cheese and then click on the event.
Oh.
And then you want to tap because now it's the other side of the card, right? So double click on tap or in the box, double click. There you go. Now it brings you to image 2 tap. So what do you want to type here?
This dot card rotate back.
Good. This dot card. Yep. Hit enter. Dot begin. Yep. Close parentheses. Bam.
Save.
Okay. Hit F5. Let's let it build. It'll take a second. It's going to be a little funky the second time. Okay, so we flipped it. Whoop. But you get the point, right? So everyone, what's your name again?
Tom.
Tom. Give Tom a round of applause. You got the idea. I mean, it's a little buggy. So, but he got it to kind of work, right? I mean, you just probably have to change the coordinates a little. Quick question.
Even though one's hidden and you tap, are you still tapping both?
No, you are tapping. So you tap it once. That's a really good question, right? So you tap it once. This is the first image to tap. Oops. Sorry, yeah, the code's kind of screwed up. So the way it should happen, what's your question? Sorry.
I mean, both, even though one's 90 degrees, is the object still there and you're still tapping?
That's correct. Well, so you tap on it after it shows its face, right? So the original part is the blue side, right, is faced in front of you. So you actually have an event to click on the blue. And then it flips to the yellow. Now you have a separate event that we just created to click on the yellow. And then it flipped it back. So what it's supposed to look like, sorry, not your fault, I was just kind of walking you through it, is this. I have the clean version. I got your... So do we have a prize for Tom?
We will find something.
Okay. Okay, this is what it should look like, and then, again, you have the code there, so you can see what it looks like. I could also deploy it to the phone. You guys want to see it on the phone real quick so you can play with it? See what it looks like? Or not? Yeah, that's all right. You guys can play with it afterwards. It's getting late. All right, so here we go. The program is going to deploy. Oh, one thing I didn't show you, when you're in Expression Studio, you could right-click on your project again and then send it to Visual Studio. So this is what it's supposed to look like. Yay, and then how clean is that? But you get the point. What's really cool, though, remember, in Expression Studio, where it was all design related, we only wrote one line of code and then maybe a second line of code. But what ends up happening in the code is, you'll see over here, it adds the XAML in for you. Adds storyboard, rotate card storyboard, and then rotate back again storyboard, right, for 1 second. So after you create something in in Expression Blend, you can see what happens in the code afterwards. All in the XAML. It all adds that for you. So anyway, that's the end of my demo and my talk. What I'm going to do is, if you guys are really interested or want to have friends that might be interested in doing stuff, especially for the project, I could come back. We could do XNA. We can get a little more depth with maps, whatever you guys want to do. So let me know. Does it sound good?
Yes.
All right. Thanks again for being here, and that's the end of the talk for now, part 1. We have some raffle items to give away.